Hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm the Spell Singer, and this is my ongoing review of the Gamebook series of books known as Lone Wolf. And this review is going to give you a quick look at this title with its book number. I shall go through the blurb, and we'll check out the press launch. And then I'll go through the plot with the locations for this book, talk about the game mechanics, look at the adventure sheet, and then we'll go through the artwork, which I'll run through this video, talk about some of my own fun facts that I may have found, go through my likes and dislikes, talk about the summary, and then give it a score out of 10. So, first off though, out of the blue, in May of 26, I get this email from Ben Deaver. I thought it was a joke. I thought it was a hoax at first, because of course no one had emailed me previously to review their books, let alone the dizzy heights of Ben Deaver. And since then I've had a couple more emails, so it's all very exciting. But yeah, so I replied, and he just said, I've seen your channel, I'd like you to maybe review this book, because of course it hadn't actually come out at that time. At the time of this review, which is July of 26, I've read the book and I have a good enough understanding to finally get this review in place. So apologies, Mr. Ben Deaver, if you're watching. I kind of got a bit delayed, life got in the way. So anyway, let's review this book. So this is book 32, part 1 of Light of the Kai, volume 1. So yeah, May 12th, 26 was the publication date. And this is by Ben Deaver and Vincent Lazzari. So he's back on board. So he's kind of like the loremaster. The internal artwork is by legendary Gary Chalk. So yeah, he's back on board after a little bit of a break to give us all those internal illustrations of goodness. Now, let me read this blurb from my copy so you can get an idea of what's going on in this one. Light of the Kai. The final battle begins. An age of war has engulfed the world. The two greatest champions of darkness now stride freely across the lands. Hope rests upon the supreme masters of the new order, outnumbered and outmatched. They must rally and unite their scattered allies. But strength of arms alone will not suffice. A daring plan must be forged, one that will lead your company into the forsaken northern regions, where the old foes stir and long-buried secrets awaken. Yeah, so let's get into this one. But I want to give you a little idea about this press launch and give you the details of that. That all kicked off just prior to this book coming out. So London, 24th of April 2026, for the first time in 38 years, legendary artist Gary Chalk has illustrated a new Lone Wolf gamebook, Light of the Kai Volume 1, the 32nd book in Joe Deaver's saga, and part 1 of The Final Quest, launched Wednesday 12th of May from Homeguard Press. It is the first part of The Final Quest. It is the first Lone Wolf title to feature Chalk's artwork since The Jungle of Horrors back in 1987, and written by Ben Deaver. It began in 1984 with Flight from the Dark, before his death in 2016. Written by Ben Deaver and Lone Wolf loremaster Vincent Lazzari, the book opens the 2-volume finale of a saga Joe Deaver began back in 1984 with Flight from the Dark. Before his death in 2016, Joe told Ben and Vincent how the story ends, and this is that story. Ben Deaver is the son of Lone Wolf creator Joe Deaver and co-author of the saga's final volumes. He has led Homeguard Press's ongoing work to complete its father's vision since Joe's death, and of course Vincent Lazzari, the Lone Wolf loremaster, whose deep knowledge of Magnum has informed Homeguard Press's recent releases. And Light of the Kai Volume 1 is his debut as a co-writer on the main series. And then it goes on to say, in quote, "This book is going to blow fans' minds. The number of callbacks and references is incredible, yet never quite feels egregious. Vincent's depth of lore and Ben's writing style, both distinct and also deeply reminiscent of Joe's, shines through, keeping the text grounded in the saga's history while moving forward towards what is clearly going to be an epic conclusion. Yeah, so there you go. That was all down from the press launch. So let's look at the plot and we'll take a look at those locations. Light of the Kai, Volume 1. So this introduces a new departure for the series. For the first time, you will choose your hero right at the start of the adventure, playing either as the Lorne Commander or as Lone Wolf himself. And the action takes you into the Forsaken North, where old foes stir and long-buried secrets await you. The world of Magnamund faces this age of war now, and the two greatest champions of darkness, as mentioned in that blurb, they kind of stride freely across the lands, and hope rests with the supreme masters of this new order, so a daring plan has to be forged. Now, the world of Magnamund is essentially buckling under the siege as these forces of the dark god Nar, they strike everywhere. And amid all this chaos, a massive coalition forms. So Kai Marshal's Steel Hand unites warriors from across the realm, and alongside the surprising inclusion of the nation of Vasajonia. And the catalyst for the Volume 1 storyline is this sudden disappearance of the Kai Grandmaster Steel Hand during this expedition into the ancient ruins of Emoria. And it's situated near the Macken Gorge, I think, if I remember correctly. You take on the role of either Lone Wolf himself or, of course, this New Order Grandmaster to infiltrate Emoria's deadly dungeons and uncover this dark, forgotten secrets, and of course find this missing Kai brother. And in terms of location, you will spend a lot of time in the Kai monasteries. If you see this map here, the starting base of operations essentially, and the training ground for the New Order of Grandmasters. And then you've got Telestria. It's a realm facing a massive invasion by Agarashi forces emerging from the deep underground. And also, you've got the Danarg, a treacherous, shadowy swampland, the kind of subterranean source of ancient evil where the main threat brews. And so, lots going on and much to explore in this finale. Right, let's talk a little bit about the game mechanics and the character sheet. Now, one of the big changes is, of course, you get to play one of the two characters. So the Lorne Commander, their first mission since reaching Kai Supreme Master. Powers have grown, as have the disciplines. So if you're playing this book afresh, you find your fighting prowess by establishing your combat skill and your endurance. And you can either use the random number table, as normal, this one here, a good old random number table, and that's of course provided in every single book, or a simple D10 will suffice. And with that number you add 40, you heard it, 40, and then basically you got your combat skill from that number, so that's your final combat skill. And similar for your endurance, you either use that table again, or your D10, you add 60, and that will be your endurance. So the combat skill is of course, as always, your ability to battle, and the endurance is your health. And if it falls to 0, as always, it's death. Of course, if you have played all the way up to this book, then you simply transfer all your details, all your items and equipment, all your stats over from your previous book. So, of course, Lone Wolf books 1 to 20, and the Lorne Commander books 21 to 31. Now, I say transfer everything over. Well, you can't actually transfer everything over. Here's a list of items that both Lone Wolf and the Lorne Commander can retain for at least for the last 2 volumes. So you've got this image here. You can sort of see what stuff you can carry over. And also, as Supreme Masters, you have mastered the most advanced levels of the Kai disciplines. So from this video, you can see all the various disciplines, like the Grand Weapon Mastery, you've got Animal Mastery, Deliverance, Assimilance, Grade Hunt Mastery, Grand Partnership, Chi Surge, Chi Scream, Grand Nexus, Telegnosis, Chi Alchemy, Chi Magic, Elementalism, Herb Mastery, Astrology, and Bardmanship. So, an array of really cool disciplines. As well as all this, there are Supreme Mastery gifts, whereby you have been granted these new abilities. So Lone Wolf takes 6 gifts and the Lorn Commander can choose 2 more. And you've got these Chi Weapon Craft available to Lone Wolf as well. That's available to Lone Wolf, and you've got Solarism available to the Lorn Commander. And after all that, there is also the Chi Engineering, Time Exploration, Dimensionalism, and Transmutation. So there's a whole load of new stuff to get involved in with this gamebook. Another point to remember are the curses. The curses of Korra Tasnar. Now, both Lone Wolf and the Lorn Commander, they suffered during that New Age war. Each were cursed with the greatest champions of darkness. So for Lone Wolf, you got that blood curse, meaning each time you decide to use a Supreme Master Discipline or gift, you must first consult the random number table to determine its outcome. And then for Lorn Commander, he suffers the darkness curse. So whenever you decide to use Supreme Master Discipline or again the gift, again you've got to consult that random number table to kind of find out what happens. So there's a nice little twist in the tale. Equipment, again, is a factor in this adventure. You begin with, obviously, your map, some gold, but you also choose from an array of cool items and equipment. From this video, you can see you get to choose 5 items, but remember to note their impact on your combat skill and endurance. Very important. Now, I always touched on combat in the previous video, but just to run down through very quickly how that works. I really love the way it's constructed. It's so good, and it is a testament that it still works now to how well written this was. So you've got your enemy's combat skill and your endurance points given in the text. So you can see this image here. Gives you a little idea of what that's going to look like. And the sequence for combat is as follows. You add extra points gained through your Chi disciplines to your current combat skill total, and then you subtract the combat skill of your enemy from this total, and the result is your combat ratio. Then you roll your D10, or you pick a number from that random number table, turn to the combat results table, which is this image here, and showing the combat ratio numbers. You've got the whole table full of them there. Find the number matching your combat ratio, cross-reference it with your random number that you picked, and you now have the number of endurance points that is lost by both you and the fella that you're having a fisticuffs with. So yeah, you make the changes to your endurance and repeat until one of you is no more. Now here you can see the character sheet, so it's slightly different. So if I look at my one that I've received from Mr. Deaver, you've got a slightly different one for a Lone Wolf compared to the one for the Lorn Commander. So you've got your usual Supreme Master gifts in the top there, Lost Supreme Master Disciplines, and then the curse, and then of course all your backpack stuff, your mills, your belt pouch, a place for your combat skill and endurance, and then of course your combat record. But of course you've got this second page where it lists your special items, your Chi weapons, your Nexator mail, weapons, the quiver and arrows, and of course any notes. But of course, we've got also the Lorn Commander one, which is more or less the same except for a few changes. But you can see here the first page for the Lorn Commander is more or less the same. Slight difference with the Supreme Master gifts and the curse. And then his second page is more or less the same again, special items and whatnot. But you can see that, they really went to town with the character sheet to accommodate all the new good stuff that's been crammed into this game book. Right, let's have a chat about the artwork and the fun facts that I've managed to gather. Okay, so yeah, Gary Chalk's distinctive ink illustrations defined the look of Lone Wolf for the first 7 books. from Flight from the Dark back in 1984 to Jungle of Horrors in good old 1987. So his return to the series after nearly 4 decades is a landmark moment for the readership that grew up on all those images, all those illustrations from the good old days. And alongside Chalk, Like the Kai Volume 1 also features artwork from Nerdgore. So you've got Justin Wyatt, Francesco Mattaloli, and of course Alberto del Lago. So yeah, remember him from all the covers, all those old classic covers. The result is a book that honours the saga's visual origins while bringing it into its final chapter. So Holmgar Press is also releasing 7 new signed and numbered art prints by Chalk to make the launch. So you got that to look forward to as well. Very cool. This book features a highly celebrated collection of artwork that blends that kind of iconic returning talent with all the modern illustrations. You've got Richard, Nerdgore, Samson, providing additional artwork for the art covers, known for his gritty modern fantasy style in the later editions of the series. And of course you've got Justin Wyatt as well, Alberto del Lago, and they all contributed to that kind of supplementary style artwork to kind of flesh out the book a little more with all its extensive appendices and all the narrative beats. And then of course Francesco Mattilio, so he created the full colour panoramic map that you can see here, and the battle maps included across the print, digital tie-ins. So yeah, absolutely amazing. That hardback cover with the map inside was just something really special. And of course, always I have my favourite picture. So on reference 120, which I will read to you, you've got this fella here. This is the sea dragon in all its beauty, with the overhead view with the ship underneath, the waves and the sea dragon coming out, and it's just epic. So yeah, just to give you an idea, this is what it says. The Shog Ash moves with terrifying speed, her passage pushing to crash against the shore. Though fully submerged, she cannot dive. The lake's western arm is too shallow. This allows Skyfoot to keep her in sight as your crew readies the skyship's cannons. And before she can reach the trench and vanish into the deep, you fire. Special harpoons forged in the guild hall of Turan and imbued with enhanced Brotherhood spells akin to those used by the Lorne commander against Agarash on the Seroplane. Strikes true. Dozens embed deep into their glistening hide. They cause no real harm, but they hold. Mage Master Leonard triggers the levitation enchantments. And at first it seems the sea dragon's immense weight and fury will tear free, but slowly she falters. Her massive head bursts from the water. Bellowing wrathfully, bolts of black flame erupt from her jaws, narrowly missing the Skyfort. And then her mad gaze fixes upon you. You dare strike the last of the great devourers. You crave a glimpse of the age of entropy. As she rises, the sight drives panic through the crew. The corruption you glimpsed upon her neck is nothing to the horror of her back. Gigantic octopoid tentacles thrash amid chitinous spines. Lamprey maws, reptilian eyes. Her pain and ancient grief have remade her into the avatar of madness and chaos. Tentacles taller than Brotherhood Tower lash the air, hammering Skyfort with their sheer force. Her mutated eyes fire beams of vile energy. The extra maws spit globes of acid that would dissolve a man to bones. The Shogash is no longer a beast. She is a living warfleet. Nightmare made flesh. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that, right? And with this artwork to accompany it, you really become immersed in this world. Right, some fun facts. So, it was originally planned to be just one book. So you can see from the size of this, it's epic already. So you can kind of understand why they went with 2 volumes. But probably due to the desire to tell the full story, as was decided. Publish it in 2 parts, why not? A digital companion titled The New Age of War bridges that kind of story gap, revealing that a staggering 2 years are missing from the historical records in Magnamun, leading up to the Light of the Kai. So unlike earlier books, Volume 1 also features 400 references. So you've got 400 distinct gameplay sections to allow the deeper branching, a more immersive experience is allowed. The book introduces a technique where players are placed into an area to visit several sub-locations before returning to a central hub. So that kind of hub mechanic is classically used in the old Fighting Fantasy books as well. So that's quite cool. Right, my likes and dislikes. So this book frequently trades standard player choices for more deep narrative-driven passages. You can tell that by the size of the book and the references that are inside. There's a lot more going on. So fans describe the reading experience as being a bit closer to a traditional fantasy novel, than a previous lone wolf title. The narrative is highly detailed, it's less sandbox orientated, so you might find that it has that linear feel to it. Character survival can be sort of a bit more demanding, requiring readers to use multiple branching permutations or rely heavily on their random number table to see themselves through. And like other releases from Home Guard Press, Light of the Kai features stunning artwork from veterans like Gary Chalk and Francesco Mattilio, making it a highly anticipated collector's piece. A small feature is the adventure crossroad, so whereby the paths of both characters may cross at one point, which is really cool. I really enjoyed that. So at this point, you kind of switch characters. So you start off as Lone Wolf, you get to this choke point, and you can take over as the Lawn Commander. So that's really smart. I enjoyed playing through the book as two characters. I wasn't too bothered about changing midway, but it was a nice option to have. Okay, let's summarise and give this book a score. So, Light of the Kai is the 32nd instalment of the Lone Wolf Gamebook series and the first part of its epic conclusion. And authored by Ben Deaver and of course Vincent Lazzari, based on the series creator Joe Deaver's notes, it plunges you as Supreme Master of the New Order into a world ravaged by a chaotic multi-year war against the forces of darkness. The two of the greatest champions of darkness are actively striding across Magnamund like they own the place, and the gamebook uncovers the harrowing events that took place during a 2-year gap in this historical record. And you can choose to step into the role of Lone Wolf or play as the protege, true friend. The narrative tasks you with leading a daring company on a tactical expedition into the forsaken, monster-infested northern reaches of Magnamund. And this is the beginning of the end, the beginning of that final conclusion that can feel more like a novel, like I mentioned earlier, than a standard gamebook. I like the Kai deals with this in a couple of distinct ways. It retains that 400 sections, which makes that branching easier and uses that hub technique that I mentioned as well. So for example, you can find yourself in an area where you could visit several places, but then return to that same hub once you've done what you needed to do. You can't leave the hub without fulfilling some kind of objective, so that's quite clever. It stops you getting to the end without maybe some all-important item. The way this is used in Lone Wolf is you're normally penalised for going to too many sections without figuring out what you need to do to continue. So it's like classic hub mechanic, isn't it? You can only spend so much time in this hub before you've got to push onwards. Otherwise you get a bit of a penalty thrown at you. And the good thing is there are more choices to make. There's a lot of figuring out what you need to do to continue. It's not all rammed down your throat. You do have to actually think about it, which is a good thing. One surprise was that the book ends without a proper fight with Agrash, which I expected there to be. I had kind of assumed that Vashna would be vanquished in this book and that the last book would focus on Agrash, but no. So yeah, Vincent and Ben continue to do a very good job. Keep you guessing all the way through the adventure. I'm really looking forward to part 2. But all in all, it's a very exciting part 1 of this conclusion. But at the same time, it's saddening to feel that the end is this close now. After all this time, the end is in sight. I don't know what on earth I'm going to do with myself when I get that final book. But yeah, it's a great opener to the final. So I'm going to give this book an 8 out of 10. So that's my review. I hope you liked it. I hope there weren't too many spoilers. But if you did like it, give it a thumbs up, and above all, put some comments in here. Tell me what you thought of this book. Are you excited to reach the end? Tell me what you thought was going on, what you thought of the illustrations, what you thought of that artwork and the general prose. If you really like it, share the channel out, and I will catch you in the next review, which will be the Volume 2, the second part of this epic conclusion. So catch me in that review.